I mean, that's a funny question or an interesting question, because it's not as if suddenly, 10 years ago, pigs started having bellies, and prior to that, they didn't have bellies and nobody ate them, because we've been enjoying pigs and all of its parts for a long time. I mean, bacon is not a new idea, and bacon has been beloved for as long as I can remember bacon. But I think that trends come and go, and we're not gonna. We're dealing with more or less a finite number of ingredients. We aren't creating really with any sort of regularity new foods to work with. And I think that as chefs, we kind of work our way around an animal, and how and why suddenly you see pork belly on everyone's menu, I can't exactly explain, other than it tastes good. But or why, it might be lamb spare ribs the next month, or it might be, duck tongues after that, and then we go back to veal sweetbreads or something. I think that a curious cook or a thoughtful cook is always sort of moving around, and as economics become an issue, we look for cheaper, more affordable cuts that still offer a lot of flavor. And I think that there are also people, there's a trickle down. There's people looking for I don't want to say the new cut, because again, the animal has had that muscular structure for its whole life. But if we can sort of, with the help of our butchers, and look at the animal and think of a different way to form it or a different way to carve that bit out and use it, you will see that trickle down. I mean, TGI Fridays now does flat iron beef, and that's not something that you would have seen at TGI Fridays if chefs like myself hadn't started using it as a delicious cheap cut from the shoulder 5, 6, 7 years ago. But now it's on TGI Fridays menu. That's part of the trickle down, and that's how it finds its way all over the place. But I think again that thoughtful cooks are looking at exploring the whole animal, and so we move around, and you use a cut for a while and you get tired of it, so then you move to another cut. Why pork belly was so hot? That's a fair question that I can't answer, but I was probably as guilty as anyone else of cooking a lot of pork belly 5, 6 years ago, because I thought it was delicious. And for me, it was about how can we cook it in a different way, in a way that it hasn't been cooked prior, or what modern techniques can we apply to it. We might get excited in the restaurant about an ingredient that's new, but it's new insofar as it's new to us. It's not a new ingredient. It didn't just drop out of the sky, but it's new to us, so we get excited about it, and so we work with it and try to put it through its paces and learn about it and understand it and then use it. And then sometimes another chef might get wind of it, and boom, 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 and there it goes. Or I might hear from a friend, oh, check out the crab tails. These are pretty cool. And you say, well, what the hell's a crab tail? I've never seen a crab tail, and it's not really the tail, but it's this piece of meat that's really interesting. And unfortunately, that was not something that found widespread appeal, but it was a really delicious piece of meat. I think uninspiring is a little harsh. I don't take maybe quite as negative a stance as that, but I think things like farm to table are misleading. I think sometimes that becomes a pedestal or a soapbox to get people into your restaurant, but it's almost empty in a way. I mean, my food comes from a farm and I serve it on a table. It's not as if what they're trying to say is that not much is being done to it, but it's not to say, I think to use farm to table to imply that there's that equals quality is misleading, because I think that if there's something wrong with needing to say, hey, we use good ingredients, because any chef, it should be understood that when you go to a restaurant of a certain caliber, it should be expected that Chef X is using good ingredients. That shouldn't be a sounding board. Hey, come here, we use good ingredients. Well, that's crazy. That's crazy. Come here, we use mediocre ingredients, but it's cheaper. Like, that's nuts. I think you have a right as a diner to expect when you come to my restaurant that I'm using good ingredients, responsibly sourced. If you want to ask me about them, I'm happy to tell you. But the notion that farm to table somehow signifies I'm shopping well or responsibly, I think is unfair. It is almost, it's like smoke and mirrors for the diner. It's like, it's false advertising, because I'm at the green market, every week buying things. And I have been, but I don't stand up on it and say, hey, come see really good vegetables at WD-50, because you should assume that we're using really good vegetables. So I think sometimes that notion is a bit of a misnomer.